Hi, it's Andrea from Walks as Well Andrea, and today I wanted to talk a little bit about overtraining because in the last couple weeks I have been experiencing that a little bit. And when I talk about overtraining, I think that for the average person that just tries to be active and stay healthy, that can happen really oftentimes for three reasons. One reason is if you start a new program, something new, and that definitely happened in my case. Another reason can be that you do something again that you used to do and you just do a lot more of that. And then a third thing I've seen a lot lately is that there are so many messages that we are supposed to do certain things, be able to do certain things. So, how many push-ups, how many pull-ups, how much weight we're supposed to be able to bench press and deadlift and farmer carry and things like that. And I think people very easily get wrapped up in that, and they feel they have to improve really quickly, and I think that can also lead to that. So to give you a little bit of background what happened for me, so I in general like to work out, sort of plan my year in about every 3 months. I change sort of my workout. And so the beginning of the year, I was in a really good spot in terms of movement and exercise. I was doing actually a lot of reformer Pilates, not a lot, but about 2 to 3 times a week. And I did 2 full body weightlifting workouts at home. They were really good. I made sure that I really hit all the major muscle groups twice a week, and I made sure I was recovered before them, and I felt good. I also ran a little bit, but just about once or twice a week. I walked every day, and I did one longer hike, and overall I felt really, really good. I was ready for my workouts. I was ready to increase the weights or the reps every week, and it was all good. And then there were 2 things that happened. One was we joined a gym, and we haven't had a gym membership since 2020, and so I was really, really excited about going to a gym. And so I just really enjoyed all the equipment there. And while I had been doing full body days before and sort of had kept it relatively short, but still got everything done, I now had sort of more equipment, and I started breaking up days to upper body, lower body, and I just wanted to try everything out. I was a kid in the candy store, right? A kid in the gym, and it was fun, and it was great. At the same time, we also decided to run some races, just 5Ks, and so I also started taking running a little bit more seriously. I didn't increase that all that much all at once, but I added runs. I added a little bit, made my runs just a little bit longer. Again, nothing drastic, but it was 2 things at once, right, that were added to my schedule. So I struggled with the Pilates a little bit, and finally realized, I can't do Pilates and all the other workouts because there's just not enough time. I'm not recovered well enough, and so I had to let go of the Pilates, and it was sort of sad, but it was okay. But even after I let go of the Pilates, I was still not feeling great, and it sort of all came crashing down a little bit when I was on spring break, and I really did. We went to the gym every day. We did either upper body or lower body, and I really did push myself. I ran 4 times a week, and we went on hikes. The hikes weren't super strenuous, they weren't super steep, but it was mileage. So I really felt extremely exhausted at the end of the week, to the point that it just didn't feel normal, right? So, and so my first instinct was to push through that, and that's what I did on Saturday. And on Sunday, I really, really just felt I had hit a wall. I went on a neighborhood walk while I was talking to my parents on FaceTime, and that sort of went okay. But I really was super exhausted the rest of the day, and it really led into the following week. I had a easy run scheduled for Monday, and I went easy. I really ran slower than I ever had, and it felt extremely hard, right? So that's really one way for you to gauge if you are overtraining, is if things that you have been doing for a while, if they start feeling really difficult, or the weight you have been lifting feels really, really heavy, things like that. So looking back, it definitely was a case of changing too much and adding too much and doing a lot more, really, than I had been doing, and really also new things, right? While I had been lifting weights, the gym workouts were definitely more intense, and they were also much more frequent, because I really went from twice a week to 4 or 5 times a week. And the runs also really doubled, because I'd been running once or twice a week, and now I run 4 times a week. So there was a lot of increase. And the problem with overtraining is when you are in that fatigued state, it is really easy to injure yourself, right? So and I really tried to make sure that I didn't do that. So I really took it easy. I really tried to listen to my body, and I think I'm feeling better, but I'm still going to take it easy today. So, adding new things to your workout schedule, I think, is very tricky, because you don't actually know how stressful this is for your body, as how much stress your body experiences this. And the same thing can happen if you do some sort of movement again after not having done it for a while. And I think that happens also very often, because you remember what you did a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, but you are starting at a completely different point potentially at this time. So really easing into it, and really listening to your body, listening to, how fatigued are you? How fast can you run, or how difficult does a certain pace feel? How heavy does the weight feel, right? So if you can usually lift a certain amount, and all of a sudden that amount feels extremely heavy, listen to your body and back off, and you will be back at the point where you want to be in a couple weeks without the injuries. The last point, I think, where people really overtrain easily is because they hear some numbers And sometimes I think these numbers are a little bit arbitrary. Some are based in some research, but they hear some numbers on social media about what they are supposed to be able to do at their age. And if they want to age well, they have to be able to farmer carry this much, and they have to be able to do this many push-ups and this many pull-ups, and bench press a certain amount, and squat a certain amount, and things like that. And those numbers are oftentimes very, very high for a person. And what is really important is that you build up to that very, very slowly. And sometimes I would argue you may not have to build up to that number, right? I think it is important that you have a well-rounded program, and yes, that you build strength in your entire body, upper body, lower body. You want to have functional strength so you can do things, right? And be able to do those for a very long time, hopefully forever, and be able to live your life, enjoy your life, pick up the things you need to pick up, lift them overhead, things like that. Absolutely. But I think I would say, if you want to start farmer carries and you have never done them, start with something that, yes, challenges you, but not to the point where this is too much, right? I would rather you start a little lighter and feel like, oh, I could do a little more. And then, 2 days from now, you just increase it a little bit, and you increase it again 2 days after that. You're going to increase the weight and you're going to get stronger. But really, our number one priority should be not to get hurt. Because when we get hurt, we cannot move usually in some way. Eventually we're stopped from moving. And really this is where really we lose a lot of things, right? Like if we are unable to lift weights for a couple weeks or other things, that becomes really problematic. So I want to encourage you to move, right? That's my message, is always keep moving. But at the same time, I want you to listen to your body. I don't want you to do too much too soon. I don't want you to overtrain. I don't want you to push too hard, because in the end, you're really not helping. You're hurting yourself. Hope you have a great day. Keep moving and keep listening to your body. Bye now.